KHTSStation.com.
Station KHTS AM 1220 and FM 98.1. Very cool, exciting news there. I am your host, Patty Handy. Peter is out today, so I am here with my friend Nicole. I'll introduce her in a moment. But Ask Brien, just a quick background on that. AskBrien.com, it's Brien, is an awesome resource for business owners who have the need to basically get information for free. It offers tutorials, videos, articles. You can actually email in and ask a question, and it will be answered. And it's a fantastic resource. It is under construction, but it is open and up. But it's going to be more robust as it progresses. So make sure you visit often. So again, Ask Brien, Brien.com. So that's a little ditty on Ask Brien. So my guest today is a friend and an amazingly brilliant woman when it comes to commercial business banking. So if you are a business owner and always wanted to get information about how you get a loan and how you start the process, it becomes, it can be daunting perhaps, but it doesn't have to be if you have the right business banker working for you and working with you. Nicole is with the large Southern California Business Bank, and she is the vice president and senior commercial business banker. And she comes with lots and lots of experience with regards to how to package the loan, what's required, what the underwriters look for. Her experience as an underwriter, she'll share some of that. But she's incredibly bright, and I'm just so pleased that you're here with me today because, on the retail side, when I do mortgage lending, oftentimes when someone's buying a home, they're just overwhelmed by that documentation. So those business owners who think I've got to get a loan, do I go conventional, do I go, SBA, how do I start, what do I do? They don't know where to start. So let's start with some of the basic things, and let's start with the very beginning.
Thanks for having me, by the way.
Of course. I did say Nicole Nelos, right? I did say your last
name? You did,
name?
and that was quite an introduction, so thank you so much.
Of course. So the importance of finding, first out of the gate, the importance of finding the right person in the right division in the bank. So instead of walking into a branch of ABC Bank and just saying, hi, I need a loan, you need to know where to go. So tell us how that person should start that process.
Absolutely. So this answer, I'll preface it by saying it depends on the type of business you are and the type of bank you are going to. So let's start with the bank. There are large banks, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and similar, and we're all used to their retail branches, which are great. You have your branch managers and your tellers and your bankers. You might have a business banker there, and they can absolutely do business loans. However, typically, the business loans they're doing are kind of standard desktop kind of approval loans, maybe a business credit card, maybe up to $100,000 in a line of credit. Not too much financial analysis going on there, more data collecting. Maybe, they'll say, okay, I need some financials. Not really a lot of dissecting. So if you're someone where maybe you've been in business for a long time, it's pretty easy. You're a strong borrower, your business is, profiting. Yeah, maybe do that if you just want to get something quick over the table. If you are a business owner where you need someone who is perhaps a vice president or has a direct relationship with the underwriter, to really dissect your business and understand your financials, then you need to make sure you're speaking to the business banking division. Now, oftentimes, you will have that person at a branch. Absolutely, that's fine. So I'm not necessarily saying don't walk into a branch. I myself sit at 3 branches where I work, and we have our own business banking division. So at smaller banks or mid-sized banks, you typically have a commercial division, a commercial department, where they're not usually on the first floor; they're on a third floor or higher, and you make an appointment, go see them, or you speak over the phone, and they let you know exactly what they need. So just make sure you're speaking to the actual business division or commercial banking division.
So walk in and say, I need a commercial business banker,
Yes.
and be specific of your needs.
Absolutely. Otherwise,
Yeah.
be prepared for, just a very general application process if you don't speak to one.
Okay, sounds good. So speaking of the application process, let's start with that.
Sure.
What, just getting again out of the gate, when somebody comes to you and says, I need a business loan. What do you request of them? How does that conversation start? What can they bring to the table as far as documentation? What's the best way to empower the business owner listening to have success with a business owner or a business banker like yourself?
Sure, great question. So first, I want to make sure that the business I'm speaking to is within an industry that's lendable. Typically, you just need to remember what's not lendable, right? So there are certain industries that are prohibited to a bank, or are more high risk industry. So just know if you're one of those. I'll name a couple. You're going to have a hard time if you're a long or short haul trucking company. There are a lot of banks that do that, and we do a lot of equipment financing for companies like that. That's fine. Hotels have a hard issue. A lot of restaurants have a difficult issue
I've
because
heard restaurants do, yeah.
Because again, if you think about it, typically you need a line of credit or a loan for working capital needs. But with a restaurant, you're paid in cash the day you finish they finish their meal. So what do they really need funds for? So it's kind of hard to validate the need for funds. We do a lot with them for equipment financing. So again, the industry types are, developers, manufacturers, medical. We have a lot of service industries, law firms, folks like that. So if you are a service business or, let me back up a little bit. I have phenomenal clients who are very creative. A lot of them are in the post and pre-production for studios, trailers, things like that. So if you are an established business, I'm going to make sure you've been in business for at least 3 years, meaning that you have at least 3 years of financials to collect. So
financials, you're talking what, tax returns?
and year-to-date interim financial statements.
Okay.
So to answer your question on what we ask for, so to make sure that you are an industry that is acceptable and you have been in business for at least 3 years, reporting profits for at least 3 years, I'm going to ask for a few things. 3 years of business financial statements and year-to-date, or business tax returns, and year-to-date financial statements. We're also going to ask for if your business owns the property or owns a property. We're going to ask for a rent roll, meaning who's anyone that is leasing that property, even if it's your business per se. It all depends on kind of what we're asking for here. If you have accounts payable and accounts receivable, we're going to ask for those AP and AR agings. So a full package, a business debt schedule. We want to know what debt do you have as a business owner or are capable of having. If you have a line of credit or credit card, we need a list of that. The other thing too is we need a personal financial statement for every business owner. Now, what that means is it's a sheet essentially that is a snapshot of all of your assets and your debt personally as a business owner. So I'd like to go into that a little bit more if you don't mind.
Of course.
Okay. So a lot of folks tend to not be prepared for the fact that they'll need to personally guarantee a business loan. And I should say folks that maybe are new to borrowing for their business. Now, as a business owner, if you are partnered up with someone and you don't know what's in their financial closet per se,
it's time you do.
it's absolutely time you do.
Yeah.
I always find it amusing when business partners don't know everything about each other. Like, that is the one
That's
time
scary.
it is absolutely okay to know everything about each other because
Yeah.
you need to.
Yeah.
It can actually be the make or break of a decision for a loan. You have two owners. One of them is strong financially, great credit. They have liquidity. They pay down their debts on time. They don't have a lot of debt. The business is sound. They're profitable. Oh, but you have, borrower number two or owner number two who's late all the time, doesn't have any money in the bank, has a poor FICO score, and maybe the loan isn't declined, but your definitely going to pay for it.
Higher, credit risk is
Absolutely is huge.
Yep.
So maybe the loan structure is not going to be favorable. The rate won't be favorable. There's a lot of factors that go into it. So definitely know who you're getting into business with and be willing to air everything.
There's no choice there.
There's not.
You can't hide anything when it comes to that.
You can't. And then, and again, this seems like a lot of information. It's really not. When I send, for example, say you refer a client to me, you've referred people to me in the past. I have a conversation with them on the phone and they say, great, I want to move forward. I send them an email with literally bullet points that say, for your business, I need this, this, and this. Personally, for all owners, I need the same thing, essentially. I need 3 years of personal tax returns. I need your bank statements for the last 2 months to show what you're claiming you have in assets. And really what that does is it allows me to do a financial and credit analysis. So I'm going to look at, are you highly leveraged? Does your business cash flow? Every bank has minimums for, how, debt service coverage of how much the business should cash flow and, the liquidity ratio and things like that. So we can go into that a little bit later. I don't want to have everyone get a little overwhelmed by all of these.
Yikes, it's so much.
That's the part going back to the beginning about making sure that you're speaking with someone who really understands this.
Yes.
Because oftentimes if someone is collecting data and they input the wrong amounts and they're saying that you don't cash flow when really you do, they just didn't know to add back rent or add back, certain depreciation or amortization. You need someone that really knows what they're doing.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we do some of the same stuff when it comes to a mortgage and a home mortgage. If somebody owns a company, we get their corporate tax returns and we back in certain things. And if you don't know what you're doing there, you can either qualify or not qualify. So collateral obviously is very important.
Yes.
And we talked about, the assets and debts. If somebody owns their own building, that being collateral, does that put them in a much better position? Or do you prefer that they're leasing space, or how does that play in, or does it play in at all?
It does play in. It's not necessarily a preference. Again, it kind of goes back to, do you cash flow? Obviously, collateral is quite significant, and collateral does help. An unsecured loan versus a secured loan in the business sense just means, we're looking for different things here. So if you're a business where you own your own, property and the value is there and appraisal comes in and it's good, that's fantastic. Another factor though to consider, and we kind of get into another thing as well, you need to make sure that when you are buying a piece of property for your business that you do consider the quality of it, the location of it. Again, we are now going into something you can relate to, which is the appraisal aspect of it. We want to make sure that that piece of property is quality collateral, essentially. True story. I like to tell stories here, so if you don't mind. I had, quite a few years ago, a company pass everything you needed to pass as far as qualifications for a business loan. When it came time to doing the appraisal, we did environmental inspection. We found out that across the street was a gas station. And underneath, and I don't remember all the nuances of it, but underneath our property, the pipes from the gas station were connected. And there was a chance for leakage and contamination. And I think even there was noted on there saying possibility of, something blowing up. And we're like, okay, so declined.
Yeah. Oh.
Absolutely declined. So now they spent money on a property that for a lot of banks, was now useless. There might be, someone out there to lend to them and take that chance, but probably wasn't going to be for cheap money.
Yeah. Wow. Well, good thing that's something to... The appraisal made or break that whole purchase. Hopefully he didn't, move forward.
But again, the borrower did pay for that environmental inspection and appraisal. So again, it can be costly.
Yeah.
So definitely, take your time when it comes to buying a property. Make
Due
sure
diligence.
It's please do.
Huge.
A lot of folks tend to, even when they're leasing a space, they just consider what's the cheapest. And they don't realize how that could actually affect the bottom line for the business when it comes to needing support from a lender.
So let me go back to one thing that you mentioned earlier, and that was personal guaranteed. I know that's a bugaboo for a lot of people, and it can be like, wait a minute, I'm not going to, personally guarantee if you take my house, or what exactly does, for those listening, what does a personal guarantee entail? What does that mean to the attachment of that person?
Yeah, it just means that you're on the hook along with your business. Personally, you are personally guaranteeing this loan along with the business guaranteeing the loan.
So your personal assets, your personal home.
You are not necessarily, it's not, we're not like doing like a UCC filing on you
On their
personally,
home?
but what we're essentially saying is when we look at your personal financial statement, we're looking at that to see if you're a strong guarantee for the loan. Okay, this person has X amount of dollars in their savings account and their retirement account, and they own a property and the value is there. They're a strong guarantee for this loan, meaning that if the business were to go belly up and we had to come to the person for it, they're good for it. So in other words, when you're personally guaranteeing it, you're just personally on the hook as if you signed a contract yourself, not necessarily your home. We're absolutely not putting a lien on anything.
Okay.
Nothing like that. It's just saying to the underwriter, yes, this person is strong and can personally guarantee.
Right.
A lot of people tend to just think you personally guaranteeing is enough. If you are not a strong guarantor, you can be declined.
Sure.
So your business can be great, but if on the personal side you don't have liquidity, you have a lot of debt, you're not a strong guarantee. So if the business were to go belly up, you really couldn't offer anything. You're either looking at a decline or not favorable loan terms.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's talk about, just for a minute, I know we have SBA as an option for those in certain situations.
Absolutely.
Where does SBA make sense and not make sense? And we'll just cover
Sure.
this really briefly.
Yeah, really briefly. Again, I am happy to follow up on this, and I have phenomenal SBA experts that I work with all the time. But an SBA loan, SBA is not directly giving a loan to anyone. A lot of people tend to think that, which I understand, SBA loan. What they're doing, you're still getting a loan from a commercial lender, a business lender. They are guaranteeing a portion of that loan. So there are numerous programs, 7A, cap lines, 504, express loans, and there's a portion of it that's guaranteed. So it takes off so much of the risk from the lender. So the terms are a little bit more favorable. So say you're a business owner where you don't quite meet the minimum requirements of debt service coverage from a bank, but you do for SBA because again, they might be lower, right?
Okay.
Because if it takes the risk away from
Sure.
a bank, the qualifications are a little easier and a little lighter. There is a fee. It's not an SBA fee. It's not too heinous. And again, the fees are variable, and I would look to your local SBA.org site to kind of find which option might be best for you. But it's worth it if you can get that loan. Because again, if you don't quite fit the four walls or the little boxes of a bank, this might be best for you.
An option.
There are phenomenal businesses that I know, sound businesses that have, parts of their loans are SBA guaranteed. And it's absolutely fine.
Is there some industries that suit better for SBA?
No, it's not necessarily industry. The program, however, the SBA program might be industry specific. So, you have cap lines, for example, that are great for builders or contracts or working lines, working capital lines. So it kind of depends on what you need the funds for is
Okay.
really the SBA program.
Okay. And going to a commercial business banker like yourself, you'd be able to determine if it made sense, SBA or your standard.
Actually, yeah.
Commercial.
What I do is I look at it for both. I look at it conventional business loan and SBA at the same time.
Okay.
So typically what we do is we look at both, and if both are approved, then we usually give the options to the client and say, hey, these are your two choices. This is what's best for you in, SBA, and what's best for you in conventional. It's really up to you. Or if they're only approved for SBA, well, then great. At least we tried for both, and
you explored it, and that's all you
absolutely.
can do. Yeah. So the process itself, walk us through the process that we have. I know we'll probably come back after commercial and cover that more, but somebody comes into you. Here's my stack of papers. My stack.
Yes.
stack
We've
of
had
papers.
people do that. Yes.
Yeah. For those that don't email it, what is the process? I mean, there's the underwriting piece of it, of course, and the business banker needs to be an underwriter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Essentially, yeah. So walk us through that process, timelines. What's that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm going to speak generally. Every bank can be a little different here and there. But to kind of correct what you said, so every banker is not necessarily an underwriter, but we need to practically be in order to scrub the deal prior, to really know what's best and to be able to recommend to the credit team the type of structure and answer any sort of questions or provide any mitigating factors. So they give me the giant package and I'm ready to go. I usually ask for a couple days to run through it, maybe 24 hours to run through it, do some spreads to make sure I understand, okay, what's the debt service coverage here? What are we looking at? And then I build the story and I present it to credit. Now, this could be in terms of an application. It could be over email. It could be on the phone or in person, depending on what bank. But you have a banker like myself. We're there to tell the story. We're fighting for you. We're saying, hey, here's the company, everything from their bio, the management team, how they got there, who their customers are, and the financial analysis portion. We deliver all of that to the credit team to make a decision.
So that relationship that you have with that client is imperative. You need to
absolutely
understand. I mean, you need to get knee deep and
Yes.
you are like their best friend and you're their cheerleader.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of bankers, unfortunately miss opportunities by not asking questions like that, because knowing that background information can actually make a difference between an approval and a decline sometimes.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So we're listening to Nicole Nelos, commercial business banker, and we are on KHTS 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. We'll be back in a few and we'll have more questions.
Great. Thanks.
If you'd like to take your business up a notch, take a look at Elite Magazine.
Linda and Mo Hafizi, owners of our Valley's two leading magazines, the Magazine of Santa Clarita and Elite.
I'm so proud of Elite. It allows your advertisement to stand out. We distribute Elite to 50,000 homes and businesses. You'll find us in 1,900 local hotel rooms.
Discover how Elite Magazine can help your business. Call 294-4444.
Superior quality is second nature to us. Just ask our advertisers.
City of Hope is a world leader in cancer research and treatment. And there's a City of Hope community practice location right here in Santa Clarita, eliminating a major barrier in the fight against cancer: distance to quality care. Santa Clarita benefits from City of Hope's compassionate care and renowned clinical expertise. Find out more at cityofhope.org/Santa Clarita or call 661-799-1999.
Hi, this is Wendy Hassenflug, yoga and wellness entrepreneur. I'm excited to share one of the best kept secrets in Santa Clarita. Top Out Climbing Gym is one of my favorite places. Rock climbing is exceptional for building upper and lower body strength, and it improves your flexibility. Almost anyone can rock climb, and you don't have to be super fit to climb. You'll build strength and stamina while having fun at the same time. Get over to Top Out Climbing Gym in Center Point and challenge yourself to new heights.
Santa Clarita Valley has a long history of safe, reliable water service. SCV Water is dedicated to increasing efficiencies, protecting our vital resources, and improving their customers' experiences. That's you. Meet them at their new home on the web at yourscvwater.com. There, you can find the latest news, rebates, and much more. That's yourscvwater.com. They can't wait to serve you. Buying your home can sometimes be challenging. That's why Charlene Gill with CSMC Mortgage is your Santa Clarita mortgage expert. What's important to you is to secure a loan at the best possible rate, to have a professional guide you through the process, and to close on time. Charlene's 23 years in the mortgage industry and her personal expert knowledge in the Santa Clarita Valley makes her your mortgage expert. Contact Charlene at hometownstation.com/Charlene. That's hometownstation.com/Charlene.
At City of Hope, we don't believe the future can wait for the future. For over a century, we've been advancing science that saves lives. From 4 of the world's top cancer-fighting drugs to the development of synthetic human insulin, we are maximizing the potential of immunotherapy and making precision medicine a reality. It's not enough to promise future cures for cancer. We must find them sooner. We are the miracle of science with soul. Find out more at cityofhope.org.
To the Ask Brien show. We are in studio with Nicole Nelos, commercial business banker. I'm Patty Handy, and we are talking lending and loans and getting approved for a business loan. Very simplified there, but for any business owner starting the process of getting a loan, great information from Nicole. So coming back, let's start with some of the top decline reasons. I don't want to come back on a down note, but
No, and I'll make
But
I'll make it positive by saying how they're avoidable.
okay.
So hopefully by
awesome.
sharing these top decline reasons, for those out there maybe starting out, hopefully this is something that you could prevent or at least be aware of to manage for.
This is where knowledge is power. Yeah.
There you go. And I'm going to share just a few. So insufficient cash flow, right? We've talked about that. You've heard me say, terms like debt service coverage. Other measures are like fixed charge coverage, pretty much profitability of your company versus the debts you have and what you're asking for in additional debt. Without having anyone gloss over here or be overwhelmed by all these terms, insufficient cash flow when you're starting out could happen by honestly taking on more than you can chew. Oftentimes, business owners will say yes to every job, every bid, but what does that mean, right? That means when you're spending money to either produce something to deliver or, money paying someone for service, whether it's your staff or yourself, to deliver something. So sometimes you need to really understand how much it's going to cost to say yes to that job or that project, whatever it may be.
It may not be profitable.
It may not be, and you might
Yeah.
need to say no. The reason why is in 3 years, when you do have established financials and profitability and a positive trend, you can get a working capital line of credit, which actually is for that reason. It's where you would borrow from your line of credit to pay for said job that you just accepted or project. And then when you get paid back, you pay off that line of credit. That's what that's meant for, pardon me. So it's essentially a short-term line of credit. Hey, you just accepted a job, to build some sort of, I don't know, hydraulic system for some offshore company. Who knows? Actually, I have a client like that. And you've said yes, it's going to be a 6-month project. And instead of borrowing or using your personal credit, which please never do, we'll talk about that in a minute, you're going to use the line of credit option. And then when the job is done and you get paid, you pay it off. So that's essentially how it should work. But what does happen is business owners, because they're dreamers, they're excited, they're passionate, which I love.
Yes.
They say yes to everything. But then you're using money and you're asking friends and family for money and you're using your personal credit or you're dipping into your own account to pay for things and you didn't compensate for the expenses going into it. And now you're creating a negative trend.
Yikes.
So again, we can go into this over and over again, but that's just a little example of that insufficient cash flow and how to kind of be aware of it, manage it, or at least know what you're kind of getting into if you still choose to say yes.
Okay.
Okay. The second bit is insufficient collateral. So as a business owner, we talked about this a little bit. You could have a piece of property that's collateral, absolutely. But other collateral could be intangible. It could be your general business assets. It could be a trademark. It could be your clients. Well, those are more assets. But collateral is liquidity. It's property. If you don't own anything as a business owner or you don't have cash in the bank as a business owner or a cash trend or even on the personal guarantee side, you have insufficient collateral, and that could actually hurt the loan, and it could be a decline for that reason alone.
Is accounts receivable looked at as collateral?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
And there's asset-based lending. There's other avenues of how certain lenders will lend based on receivables. There's a lot of options with that. So that's definitely something. It's also looked at in other areas of the financial analysis process as well.
Okay. Okay.
Business credit. A lot of folks don't realize that you do have a business credit score. And if they do know it, they don't know how to interpret it. And they're not even sure what it means or where to go. And I'm sure we've heard of Dun & Bradstreet or D&B. That's definitely one of the places that we look at. Moody's. Business credit, you have a Paydex score. I'm not going to get into all of this right now. We could definitely follow up on this, but look into it. Do a quick Google search. Have an understanding of your business credit score and that it is out there. And it does take, it is taken into consideration during the review process or the analysis process. And when you're thinking about applying for a loan and you already kind of know where you might have some shortfalls, having any sort of mitigant for that is key. So if you could come to the table with, okay, this is my only shortfall, let's isolate it to this one, here's all the other positive aspects of my business and myself, that's going to be key into having an underwriter want to approve your loan or work with you in some capacity. Weak financial statements or tax returns. A lot of business owners tend to look at conducting and managing their financials in a way to minimize taxes and not maximize profitability or revenues.
Yeah.
Definitely work with an accountant or CPA that understands business. Let your business CPA or whoever it is know that you want to manage your financials in a way that's attractive to a lender. A lot of times they're trying to help you and save you money personally.
Yep.
Ask them what it would look like to just make it, kind of structured in such a way that's best for a lender. Whether you're going to do accrual or cash, just talk to them. Don't just send it off to them and let them decide.
Yeah. Typically the mindset is save me as much money as you can. I don't want to pay taxes.
There you go.
And then when it comes time to get a loan, it's like,
oh, you don't really make that much money, do
sorry.
you?
Yeah, I see that in my end of the business all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of knowing this, we talked about not so strong guarantors. We already talked about that, so that's another one. Insufficient operating history or management team. We do care about the management team. We want to know who's running your company. Do they have expertise in this? Have they ever done it before? Obviously this can, really be an interesting conversation when it comes to a startup or someone who's new versus someone who's been around since, the 60s. We have a lot of times owners who grew up, in the business. Maybe it was their father's company or their mom's company. That's great. They have tenure. Then we have folks who are entrepreneurial, at heart, and they're constantly opening up new businesses. And, they have a donut shop here, and then they have this, manufacturing company here, and it doesn't make sense, and they're all over the place. Yeah, we care about that. We kind of want to know, are you really invested? Is this going to go belly up in a few years? Should we invest in you? We want to see consistency and trend.
And that's just common sense. It seems like it's just a common sense requirement. I mean,
well, again, these are top decline reasons. So
right.
I agree with you, but maybe it's our lending background. To us, it's common sense. I like to think that the business owner is just too much of a dreamer. They're not thinking of it this way. They just want to do it, and, hopefully they find someone in their corner, whether it be someone like myself or yourself, who can say, hey, listen, let's get that dream and let's bring it down to reality a little bit.
Let's structure it this way. Let's work on this. Let's, maybe
Absolutely.
not today. It could be a no today, but it could be a yes a year from now.
And that's exactly it. And that's something I love to do with my clients. Even though I'm in the middle market segment, working with established business owners of a certain size, I always say yes to helping a startup or a new firm, because I understand where the resources are, and I understand that it's all over the place for someone new. And I know exactly who to introduce them to and kind of what road to get them down and at least give them information. But it's really the willingness of the business owner to want to accept that information, or at least admit what they don't know, to make it, worth their while.
But what an asset to have you on their side if they're new and they get a no, to say, okay, here's the path, here's the blueprint that you need to take. You take this roadmap, then, a year from now, you'll be in a different situation.
Absolutely.
And we can say yes, or potentially say yes. So huge to have somebody like you on their back.
I love it. That's what I do. If I feel like I've at least helped in some sort of way to, make sure a person gets to accomplish their dream or their goal, that feels fantastic. A lot of times it's so frustrating when I see potential and I see someone who has this great service or idea or business, but they're such dreamers and they just want it right now. They want it all right now, and they're not willing to invest. Yeah, right. They're not willing to invest in it and kind of, take their time, and they kind of figure, oh, it'll work out for the best. And they don't realize that you might be in a positive position in 3 years, but the banks are going to look at the past. You know what I mean? So you really have to think about what you're doing now. One other thing I want to touch on with decline reasons are concentration. So if if you're a business owner and you have vendors, make sure you diversify that portfolio a little bit. I've had several instances where, I have a client who's a distributor, or a manufacturer, they make something, it's sitting on the shelf somewhere at, Lowe's or Home Depot or Costco, whatever it may be, but that's their only client. So the first question we ask is, what if they decide not to work with you tomorrow? Because big retailers like that, they don't usually do contracts. So if they decide not to work with you tomorrow, there goes 100% of your revenue.
Yeah.
But let's take it down a little bit. Let's say you have 5, you know what I mean, clients or, contracts. And, all of them are huge portions of your revenue, percentage-wise. Again, if one of them decides not to work with you, is it really going to hurt the bottom line tomorrow? So diversify your portfolio. You could have 100 of them, but if 5 of them are really the driving force, that counts too. So really understand
You're spreading your risk out. Please
do. Because again, we want to make sure that should they decide not to work with you tomorrow, that you could still pay the bills.
Yeah. And that makes sense, and I think that's great for them to realize. They don't think, I'll have Costco forever, or I'll have Lowe's forever.
Yes.
And that doesn't always happen. So
it doesn't. And, it makes me think of one thing. Everyone remembers the 2007, 2008 real estate crash.
Oh, yes.
I was a lender at that time. I was actually doing mortgage loans. And fortunately, I worked for a reputable institution where we weren't doing stated income and, zero down. However, I bring this up because a lot of times folks, absolutely everyone had a role to play in this, but a lot of times people just kind of blame the lender, and I can't tell you how often I had people come in who knew absolutely nothing about the process and got the loan. Please don't do that with the business. Really know the basics. Pick up a book at Barnes & Noble, ask your local small business development center for some information and resources, take a class. Really talk to some folks and understand on a basic level kind of what the process is when you do need a bank in some form of capacity, whether it's a business credit card, a loan, whatever it may be.
Ask questions.
Yes.
I mean, don't just walk in blindly. So
be
important.
willing to learn.
Yeah. With the few minutes we have left, I want to ask you a couple more questions. You talked about the concentration issues a little bit. 5 C's of credit.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So that's a very, standard model that's used in smaller business banking divisions, the retail level. And it's good to know, and it's kind of a way for you to easily kind of keep track of what a bank looks at. So the 5 C's of credit are this. You have character. So the management team, are you a good client at your existing bank? You know what I mean? Are you constantly having NSFs, overdrafts, things like that? Also kind of what it sounds like. If we do a Google search of you, are we going to see lawsuits and all these things and, bad reputation? Credit is the next one. So that's pretty obvious. Your credit score, and again, that business credit score. Capacity, so your ability to repay a loan. So your revenues, your profitability. We have capital. So again, your liquidity. So on the business side, your side, do you have money in the bank, a cushion, if you will, and collateral.
Okay, that makes sense. And to go back, the score, the credit score, that's a different score than your FICO score.
Yes.
Your personal FICO score.
Yes.
We're talking two
very different things. Again, I challenge the listeners to do a quick Google search, business credit score.
Yeah.
See what comes up.
Yeah, and a different thing.
And know yours.
Yes, exactly. Government versus bank. I can't read my own writing.
Definition. Yes. There, I know. I can read your writing.
Help me out there because I scribbled.
So for the so there's a definition. We all have heard the term small business. There's a definition from the government and one from a lender. So when we say small business loan, small business Saturday, support small business, we all kind of have a different meaning of what that is. The government defines small business as less than 500 employees. So who is that? Everybody.
Wow. Yeah.
Except for, your corporate
Target,
yes,
Walmart,
your giant conglomerates. Yeah. So a bank defines small business quite differently. So you'll have small business, you'll have middle market, you'll have commercial. These are kind of terms that are interchangeable. Middle market and commercial kind of depends on the size of the bank. But small business is typically anyone that's $5 million or less at a bank in revenue and sales. So in the business banking division, it's typically about $5 million to $20 million to, be considered, you're having your own division working with you. And the commercial is $20 million and up. So something to keep in mind of how much in revenue your business makes.
Okay, and who to reach out to. For those, we talked a little bit about this at the very beginning, that you need 3 years in the business. You need 3 years of returns and documentation to basically speak to a lender. For those who are starting out, don't have that 3 years under their belt,
Sure.
what is your recommendation? How do we help them to kind of get launched being relatively new, under 3 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not gonna pretend that we're not, going to use our own personal money and credit cards to start a business. I get that. But what lenders are saying is don't. Don't, or at least manage it. Don't use all of it. Don't put it all in, right? Because then you won't be bankable in 3 years. So for those starting out, there are programs like the Valley Economic Development Center, commonly referred to as VEDC. These are government programs who have micro and macro loans for businesses. And their caveat is, are you going to be creating jobs or retaining jobs? If you are, great, let's lend to you. You might not meet all the 5 C's of credit. That's fine. They'll work with you. Again, it's VEDC, or the Valley Economic Development Center. You can also get a lot of resources from the Small Business Development Center, SBDC. They have a lot of hubs in various cities. And they, again, they have free resources and tools. They have advisors there that are, a lot of them are retired from their profession of, whether they're bankers or, financial planners who are now doing this, and volunteering their time to help. There are loans out there. And the whole point with these government loans is to make you bankable in a couple of years because they want to give that money back out to someone else. So they don't want to keep you for a long time.
Nice. Yeah, we have a local SBDC here in Santa Clarita, which is awesome.
Oh, yeah, they're phenomenal.
Yeah, so there's help out there. It isn't like just because you're not 3 years old, you have no resources.
Absolutely.
There are. Do you have the website for the VEDC, or is it just vedc.org? Or
I'm assuming it's vedc.org, but if you just Google VEDC, it'll take you there.
Okay, sounds great. Probably time for one more question. I think I've got all my questions dealt with. Is there anything else that you wanted to wrap up with? And I want to give you an opportunity to share how they can reach out to you.
Yeah, sure. One thing is when I'm talking about debt service coverage, just so everyone kind of understands, I'm talking about your net operating income that covers debt. So your total debt versus how much you're bringing in. So, for example, if you have $120,000 of net operating income per year, and you have total debt of $100,000 per year, you just divide the two and you get 120, right? 1.20. So meaning your NOI, your net operating income, covers your debt service of 1.2 times. So simplest term, for every dollar you're spending, you're bringing in $1.20, right? So kind of keep that in mind. That's the very basic that we're looking for. And you can reach me. Again, my name is Nicole Nilos. You can find me on LinkedIn. I also have a business cell phone. You can reach me at 818-337-9708.
Awesome. Well, we had a lot of great information today, and I know a lot of it was very, it was just packed full of great information.
I hope I didn't overwhelm anyone.
And if we did overwhelm you, I guess that's sort of good, but not good. But Nicole's available.
Absolutely.
She's a coach. She can coach you through this process, simplify it. I know it's, numbers are scary for people. Money is very scary for people. And it's very foreign to most. So anybody who is needing some just guidance, even if they're not ready to do a loan, reach out to you and get you set up for maybe 6 months from now or whatever it is, their timeline.
Yes, let's have a plan.
Yeah. So again, Nicole Nilos, Nilos.
Yes, thank you.
So if you want to find yourself on LinkedIn and whatnot. Again, you'll listen to AskBrien.com, Brien, a great resource for business owners. And we had Nicole Nilos. I'm Patty Handy. Thank you for joining us for the last hour, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Your building sign is essential in getting customers to your location. Feathers can help get your business noticed. They walk you through each phase of your building sign project, providing special attention to detail and quality. Feathers will give you a sign you can be proud of. Your building sign will draw customers in instead of having them drive by. Feathers on Soledad in Canyon Country, across from the Edwards Theater. Or go to feathersphoto.com. That's feathersphoto.com.
You already know Salt Creek Grill has the best food in our valley. Well, now you can have Salt Creek's gourmet meals catered to your event.
I'm Greg Amsler, owner of Salt Creek Grill. I'd like to introduce you to a new level of catering, featuring our catering director, Tamara Levine.
Salt Creek Grill creates memorable experiences, which leaves our clients and guests with a sense of awe and excitement. From menu development to picturesque presentation, you'll enjoy culinary excellence and creative catering.
Salt Creek Grill, a new level of catering.
You've seen them on Spike TV's Bar Rescue. Now experience the Cajun Belle in Canyon Country. The Cajun Belle, a terrific mix of SoCal Creole and the most flavorful handmade cocktails in our valley. It's the happening place, beginning with Blues Night every Wednesday from 7 to 11. Thursday is Karaoke Night with all-night happy hour featuring $1 tacos. Friday is Ladies Night with the coolest DJ in town. Check out live cover bands every weekend. The Cajun Belle on Soledad opposite the Canyon Country Post Office.
City of Hope is a world leader in cancer research and treatment. And there's a City of Hope community practice location right here in Santa Clarita, eliminating a major barrier in the fight against cancer: distance to quality care. Santa Clarita benefits from City of Hope's compassionate care and renowned clinical expertise. Find out more at cityofhope.org/Santa Clarita or call 661-799-1999.
Welcome back to the Ask Brien show. We have in-house today Nicole Milos, a senior commercial business banking relationship manager. We've been talking everything lending for business owners, things to do, things not to do, what you need to do. Great resource for questions. To end this segment, I want to end it on a very positive note.
Yes.
So, because this information has been very overwhelming. It could be overwhelming.
It could be, sure.
But again, it doesn't have to be because you're on their side. So let's talk about some success stories. Let's talk about some things that have gone really well for some of your clients.
Absolutely. And I have so many clients that I've had the honor of helping. But there is one that's interesting. Everyone seems to like this story because it involves pirates.
Oh, geez.
So I have a client, and they manufacture and distribute hydraulic systems for offshore oil rigging companies. So the end user is Shell, Chevron, BP, and so forth. Now, this is a company that has been around since the 50s. We mentioned them a little bit before. The three folks managing and the executive team there, their parents were the original owners, so definitely grew up in it. They are checking off all boxes on the best business owner and personal guarantees you could find. Now, they also have so much in liquidity that over the years that they've never really needed a loan, right? So they finally get a contract, and I'm trying not to say names here, so that's why I'm pausing a little bit, because I'm trying to kind of skirt over.
Protect the privacy, yes.
They win a big contract with an international company, and it's going to be a 2-year project, and this company requires them to have a standby letter of credit. It just requires them to just save face and just know that they have money there if needed. So they come to the bank, and I win that opportunity.
Awesome.
And I was very happy to do that. And what this was able to provide was for this company to essentially build everything they needed up front and ship it out in sort of process and project billing disbursements. And again, this is about 2 years worth. And they also needed to send men of their own team out to the ship in the international waters.
Wow.
Now, you have to understand that international waters, I guess, I didn't know this, but they don't have law. Apparently, it goes back to the old adage of whoever wins the fight wins the ship. So I guess not much has changed there. So this company actually had to buy back their equipment from pirates that took over the ship. And that was the only time that they didn't get one of those boxes checked. They had to report a loss that year, and it's pretty consistent. Every now and then they have to report a loss due to pirates, and I guess there isn't insurance for that, and so that's kind of interesting. I like to share that because we hear these fantastic stories. I love kind of walking through a business owner's establishment and dream and seeing how passionate they are, and I've never had anything like pirates come up before, so that was kind of fascinating. But that's a success story of someone who does it well, has been in business for so long, and they needed $15 million, mind you,
Wow.
of a standby letter of credit. So it's not actually advanced, meaning it's kind of what it sounds like, a standby letter of credit, meaning that they're good for it. This is it, should they need it. Then to kind of scale it back to normal size, what we're all used to. I have a client who does a post and pre-production sort of training videos for the military and government. They want it to be realistic, make it look like something's really blowing up, and they've won a lot of contracts for that. But again, with the military, it's on their terms, on their delivery schedule, so they really need to be at their disposal and beck and call. This is someone that really needed to have a bank there who understood that and understood that they really couldn't call the shots of when, they're going to deliver certain things. So if the military says, yes, we're going to use you and we're going to use you for 10 years, 5 years, whatever it may be, but this is when we need this by, they have to comply. So being able to give that person that loan and a line of credit to be able to fulfill those orders and have the peace of mind that they're going to have a few really great long-term contracts with the military and have consistent income and profitability, that felt pretty good.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's great. That's really awesome. I love hearing the success stories because we oftentimes hear some of the not so happy stories, in the lending world. So it's great to have that. And it sounds like in the commercial banking world, there's guidelines and there's requirements and all that, but there's also common sense underwriting. If they see a picture like this pirate situation, it's not a common,
right.
not a common story. You look at that as the big picture. You look at that in its entirety. So,
and we try to isolate any sort of factor that's negative and figure out why. Is it common? Does it come up? Is there any way we can mitigate it?
Is it going to recur?
There you go.
How often is it going to recur?
Absolutely.
If at all?
Can they plan for it?
Yeah. If it's a one-off thing, do you just sort of ignore it? If it's a one-off?
Not necessarily ignore it. We mitigate it.
Okay.
So I guess it's a fancier way of saying we ignore it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, that's awesome. We've covered, again, a lot of information. I know with the, the business banking piece, it can be kind of overwhelming. When it comes to just gathering documentation, to kind of wrap this up, the gathering documentation, we talked about all of what you require. Like I tell my clients on the retail side, your CPA can send me the majority of what I'm requesting.
Right.
So it isn't like you've got to dig up all of this stuff. You've got to unfold all this paperwork. So do CPAs, do they partake? They're part of the table, right? When you guys meet, it's a team.
They are. I have great relationships with the CPAs, but honestly, if I can suggest, have all of that digitized anyway. It really should be as easy as you just clicking an attachment and sending it over to me. For those where you're thinking right now, no, I actually don't know where those financials are, ask for them and just get them scanned to your computer or keep them in your inbox somewhere or something and have them handy. But yes, the CPAs are always willing to work as long as the client says it's okay. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think having that team at the table, so to speak.
Yes.
All working together for this common good, this common, desire for this client. Make sure things are done securely. That's why I always tell my clients, make sure if you're uploading tax returns, anything of that nature, you always upload securely so that there's nothing. But I think it's so important to simplify as much as we can. I try to do that on the mortgage side, simplify the process and take away some of that weight, if you will, because people, it's like we're busy. We're busy trying to make a living. We're busy running our businesses. We're just busy, with our family life and everything else. And that oftentimes becomes just, it's the paralysis by analysis. They just steer in the headlights. I don't know where to start.
Yep.
Call your CPA. Have them send me the last 3 years of this, and this, and all they need is to download their bank statements. And
exactly,
it's a much simpler process than what it sounds like. So
when you don't need it, ask for it.
yeah. And for those who are feeling at this time, oh my gosh, this is just too much. Oh my gosh, this is just overwhelming. This is just I can't do this. It's not.
It's not. And honestly, if you just send me or your banker a couple years financials, we can determine with that if we can move forward and ask for everything else. So if you're someone where you just kind of want to know where you're at, you don't need to necessarily send the full package requirement.
Yeah, I think that to start off, let's see if we have a game. Let's see if we have
Absolutely.
something. So that's important. And then to pull credit, we'll wrap this up. I know we're going to wrap up here in a minute. For those that want to just look at their personal FICO score, which is a great way to kind of start, once a year you can go to annualcreditreport.com for free and download your credit report. And it's not an inquiry, and it's an easy way to take a look at your personal situation. So we're wrapping up. Nicole, one more time, tell us how we can reach you.
Sure, Nicole Nilos, that's Nilos, and you can find me on LinkedIn.
Great, thank you again.
Thank you.
Awesome.